Most people think that flight attendants are there to hand out snacks and Diet Coke, but my friend Dave said something that might completely change the way you look at flying. He told me, we're not there to serve Cokes, we're there for your safety. And honestly, once you hear what flight attendants are actually trained to handle, medical emergencies, drunk passengers, security threats, even evacuations in under 90 seconds, you never look at air travel the same way again. So today, we're going behind the curtain at 30,000 feet. And before we jump in, if you love conversations that make you think differently about travel, culture, and the people behind the experience, make sure you subscribe to Cheryl's Travel Blueprint so you don't miss future episodes. Because this channel is about much more than just vacations. It's about understanding the world and the people moving through it. Dave and I actually worked together several years ago when I briefly became a flight attendant myself. And one thing I can tell you from that experience is that people wildly underestimate what this job requires. You have to be part safety professional, part therapist, part firefighter, part conflict negotiator, and somehow still smile through the turbulence and delays. I've always said flight attendants are basically Swiss Army knives. And Dave absolutely proves that.
I have always been absolutely obsessed with the aviation industry. My dad was a pilot, and I loved flying. I loved everything airplanes growing up. When kids had posters on the wall of their favorite sports ball player or their favorite their favorite band or whatnot, I had posters of the Boeing 747 and the Boeing 777 and just different posters of airplanes all over my walls. And used to make my plans play flight attendant when we were kids. I'd board them through the living room door, and they'd sit on the couch, and I'd serve them little Dixie cups of Coke. So it's been it was destined to be my career.
And honestly, that passion still comes through when he talks about the job, even after more than a decade in the industry, and that's rare.
A lot of people don't realize that's our number one priority as flight attendants. We're not there to serve you Cokes. That's an added bonus of the flight attendant position, but we are there for your safety, whether we're dealing with medical events, security threats, lots of drunk passengers. That happens almost daily. We interact with somebody who's had one too many in the airport bar. Mm-hmm. And then our days are anywhere from 6 to 14 plus hours. Once we're done with the flight, everybody gets off. We have just a couple of minutes to quickly clean the plane and reset, and the next group of passengers comes right back on. There's not a lot of downtime in between flights.
And this is the part passengers don't see. Most travelers only experience the customer service side, but flight attendants are trained for situations most people hope they'd never experience on board. And one detail Dave shared really stuck with me. The original flight attendants were actually nurses, which makes sense when you think about how physically intense flying used to be.
The original flight attendants were nurses. You had to be a nurse to be a flight attendant. Mm-hmm. Because, back before the days of pressurized cabins and all that, they had a lot more medical events than we do because they were at an altitude where the air was a lot thinner, there was a lot more turbulence, so they wanted people to be nurses so that they were better equipped to take care of those passengers. We now have extensive medical training while we're in initial training and recurrent training. But yeah, that was the original flight attendant. They had to be RNs. Mm-hmm. And they had to be, I think it was 20 to 25 years old. If they were married, they couldn't do it. If they had a baby, they had to leave. Mm-hmm. It's a wild world in the early days of the flight attendant career.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of the conversation was when we talked about first-time flyers, because behind all that chaos of airports and delays, there are still these really human moments happening every day.
I love first-time flyers. I've had first-time flyers, everybody from infants to an 85-year-old woman who was her first time on a plane. So it's fun being part of that journey for people.
And that is what people forget. Air travel isn't just transportation. Sometimes it's the beginning of someone's dream. Sometimes it's grief. Sometimes it's reunion, and sometimes it's fear. Flight attendants sit in the middle of it all. Every single day. And then Dave told me something that honestly made me laugh.
There is, and a lot of people say we used to be issued white gloves for service when we first started. Now we're issued handcuffs.
And if that doesn't explain modern air travel in one sentence, I don't know what does. And by the way, if you're enjoying conversations like this, the kind that pull back the curtain on travel and the human stories behind it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and join this community. because we've got a lot more conversations like this coming.
Well, in the aviation world itself right now, most aircraft manufacturers are trying to find more innovative ways to make flying a little bit more greener, instead of burning, hundreds and hundreds of gallons of kerosene while they fly. They're trying to find new, greener ways to do that. So these new aircraft that you're seeing, like the Airbus Neo series of aircraft, or the Boeing Max 737 Max aircraft, or their new aircraft, they're much greener. They have more fuel-efficient engines. They, even down to like how they air condition the airplanes, saves fuel. So they're doing that, making it out of carbon fiber. And I'm seeing, so after COVID was wild, and we're going to get into that, but COVID was a wild time in the flight attendant world, and we went through this period where like everybody was just happy to be flying again, and then we went through this period of they were back to their old selves, but far worse than they were. But now we're seeing...
I think we all felt that shift. Travel changed, people changed, patients got thinner, stress got higher. And somehow flight crews had to absorb all of that energy while still keeping hundreds of people safe in a metal tube in the sky. That's a level of emotional labor people rarely talk about. Say.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so Airbus recently came out with, it was a concept for a more green airplane, and a hydrogen-powered aircraft, which is far more green than burning kerosene. And they claim that they're going to have the first prototype hopefully in the air by 2030 or 2035. It was, a small time frame. It's hard. You have a car manufacturer that's like, oh, let's build this kind of car, and from the idea to it being on the road a year or two. But with aircraft, it's so stringent. The design process, the manufacturing, the testing. There's so many moving parts to it, that from a clean sheet of paper to an aircraft actually being in the air can be upwards of 10 years. So they put a short time frame on it. So I'd like to see if they are able to do that, and B, if it works, if airlines start buying these aircraft that are much better for the environment, much better for the passenger, because the lower the fuel cost, the lower the cost is to us. It all trickles down.
Yes.
It would be cool to see them that come out with an aircraft like that. There's smaller airlines, smaller aircraft manufacturers are operating electric planes now. So Cape Air is really big up in like New England and the Caribbean. And they have a whole fleet coming of all electric airplanes. So
that's exciting.
Would we get to that point with large commercial aircraft? It would be fun to see if that's something that happens hopefully in my lifetime.
This part fascinated me because most travelers never think about how quickly aviation is evolving. Greener aircraft, more efficient fuel systems, completely redesigned technology, and yet, even with all the innovation, the human side of air travel still matters most, because no amount of technology replaces the crew that keeps people calm when things go wrong. I think conversations like this matter because they remind us that travel is deeply human. Behind every boarding pass, there's a crew working incredibly long days, handling situations that most passengers never even notice while trying to make people feel safe. And honestly, the next time you board a flight, you may look at the crew a little differently, not just as people serving drinks, but as professionals carrying enormous responsibility at 30,000 feet. And Dave, if you're listening, thank you for giving us a glimpse behind the curtain. And if this conversation gave you a new perspective on travel, make sure you subscribe to Cheryl's Travel Blueprint for more stories that explore travel, culture, and the human side of seeing the world. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you in the next episode.